Yeah, Close the doors, walk across the corridor. We got something to show you. Media is our repertoire. Fed up with the same news, no channel to use. Cruise control mentalities, here we offer you. We gon' show you a new way. The content, it never strays from positive and uplifting. Once a week, the scope gifted. With the presence of your eyes, what a distraction. Beautiful to soul, especially in action. This year not ration, came in abundance. Films like in Sundance, tech like the pop art. Tachi Queen, you are Curtis, a beast heart. You must carry, cause MCs they all vary. And seldom do they motivate. World full of hate, we serve a hope on a plate across different platforms. Let's hear a buffet, hydration like Boucher. Don't focus on a day, we always here for you. MediaScope when you emotionally broke. Settled in our knowledge and conversations, gon' make them yours. What we run is Olympic, now your hands on the torch. Take it easy like Sundays on the porch. MediaScope.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to another riveting week and another riveting conversation on MediaScope, all things media, tech, and pop culture. Do you care who I am? Even if you don't, I'm introducing myself anyway. My name is Tachi, media professor, filmmaker, media content producer, also a journalist, and I am super excited today. We have a guest. We have been rolling with the guests. We've had like 4 guests in a row, and I'm super excited about this one. But before we get to our special guest, I'm happy to welcome all of you here. I'm very excited to have you as usual. And the person running the bells and whistles behind the scenes, that would be MC Curtis.
Hey, everybody.
MC.
What's happening? Hey.
Mm-hmm. You sound really excited. Is it because of our guest?
I am. Yeah, absolutely. I heard the stories pre-show, so I'm just like, whoa.
You can't wait to disrupt, can you?
Absolutely.
And someone who has seen our guest before and friend to the show, D Carpio, is here over on the YouTube side. Welcome, D. It is so good to see you. Welcome. And so let's say hello to everybody before we get started. If you happen to be watching us on YouTube, welcome. Usually our YouTube audience comes in a little bit later, but I'm going to say welcome ahead of time to you all. Thank you so much for being here. If you happen to be watching on Facebook or Bookface, welcome to the Book Facers, both on my personal account and also in the MediaScope page at MediaScope 16. Twitch. What's up, Twitchers? Thank you so much for being here. Twitch, we're starting to get a little groove on Twitch, a little bit of a following on Twitch, so we are happy to see you. And LinkedIn, hello. If you if you could see us, make sure that you say
I'm going to need you to do better with LinkedIn because
they need to do better.
Wait. They've got their comments. They had their comments coming up on screen the other day. I'm like, what is going on? Well,
that's exactly the thing. That's why I don't get too happy too soon. They need to prove consistency to me before I start celebrating.
Okay.
Mardi Gras Man is not even going to come out for them. But we're happy you're here, LinkedIn. You're good. Oh, no, but I'm going to bring him out because I know how you love Mardi Gras Man. And look who's here. We've got another YouTuber over here, and that's Chill with Elias. How are you, DS, as he's known? How are you, DS? Good to see you. Yay. And he also says, shout out to MC. So sending you a shout out, MC.
Hey.
Yeah, he's really happy to see you. That's just his normal happiness. And I don't... As the comments come up, sometimes I have a problem with both LinkedIn and with my personal account on Facebook. So if I don't acknowledge you right away, I will. Don't worry. All right. Well, and Shelly Shell is here from the Twitch side. Derek D Tuggle is here from the Twitch side as well. What is up? What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for being here. Well, without any further ado, we are going to get to it. Now, I have to give a disclaimer. I made a mistake on the name of the book. It is When Radio is King, not When Music. I was just so excited I put music. But, you know, when music and radio were king. But the name of the book is When Radio was King. And so ignore that on the intro. But right now, we're going to get to it and welcome our special guest, TC Tompkins.
I like that intro.
But despite the typo, but Mr. Thompkins, I am so happy. We wouldn't do it any other way. We have to have a good intro when special guests like you come on.
Great intro.
Sir, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good now that you're here.
You seem like you're sparkling. You're sparkling. You got it going on. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Well, if you could do this, I'm really excited to get the conversation going. Would you mind introducing yourself to the audience and tell them a bit about who you are?
I am TC Tompkins. I've been in the music industry for some 55, probably 60 years. Started with Stax. Worked with ABC, Capitol, CBS, and Epic. Ended up being vice president of Epic. Worked with Michael, Sade, Luther, ton of major artists. Also signed Teddy Riley to his first agreement, to his first deal. Worked with Teddy on his projects. Did Guy, all the other stuff that he did, Rex and Effects. Did Domino. I did a ton of other material. Worked with Alicia Keys and bunch of other artists, but I've had a very excellent music career.
Wow. And History Needs You is here. Our good friend from England is over here from the UK, and he says Stax. Wow, big respect. And so that's where you started. How did you get started at Stax? Did you just walk up to them and say, I need a job?
I had a desire to get in the business, first of all. You know, in the book, I talk about when I was in Vietnam, and music was my savior. You know, it kind of helped me keep my sanity when I was there, because we used to have shows occasionally, but Stars and Stripes Radio was the meat and potatoes of the entertainment that we had in Vietnam. And I just had a desire to get in the industry. Ended up meeting my wife while I was in Vietnam. We were pen pals in Vietnam, and end up deciding that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the music industry. And as some people have said, I just spoke it into existence because I had no idea what the music industry was, or even what music business was. I just knew I had a passion for music, and I wanted to be involved in it.
So talk to us a little bit about your start at Stax.
Okay. Well, I got a job
at Stax.
Like? Well, my wife was working at Stax first. Okay. She had a job as the tape librarian. That's back when they used to have the big 12-inch reels, when everything was analog before digital. And I got into the music industry when Stax Records wanted to get into distribution. And they were being distributed by a major, which everybody was back then, matter of fact, still. And they wanted to start their own distribution network. And I started working with them, selling 45s. That was my first job. And I know your audience probably know what a 45 is. A 45 is wax. It's a small, what we used to call a 7-inch record. And that was a 45. And I started off selling those, quickly moved into promotions. And then from on into promotions, I left Stax about after a year. I didn't really stay at Stax very long, but I knew everybody at Stax because I lived right there down the street from where Stax was located. And I was in the jewelry business before getting into music. And I used to sell a lot of the guys custom jewelry. You know, I have rings made up. They design what they want, and I'd have them made up. So I got into the industry through sales.
Interesting. So you said stacks. Were you involved with Watt Stacks at all?
No, that was before I got there. I wish I had been. When I got the stacks, I did get a chance to work with Isaac Hayes. I worked with Bar Caves. Let me see who else. And I also met Richard Pryor while I was at Stacks.
Wow.
Richard Pryor was signed to Stacks. Nobody seems to have known that Richard Pryor's first project, That Nigga's Crazy, was on Stax Records. It was on a custom label that Stax Records had called Fantasy, I believe it was.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I met Richard. He came in, flew down to Memphis, stuck his head in my office and said, "What's up, motherfucker?" That was how he introduced himself to me.
Wow.
I never forget that. Yeah.
Wow. So was that a comedy album that
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, That End Is Crazy was a big project. I'm sure it is platinum plus by now, but it's still available. You can still find it.
Wow, that's amazing. So we're going to take a few comments because we have a question for you from History Needs You. Who did you work with over at Stax?
Well, I wasn't there very long. Only artist that I really got acquainted with was Albert King, Isaac Hayes, Tim Prees, Bar Caves, and never worked with the Staples or any of those people. But like I said, I was only there for about a year. I left Stax. I left Stax because I could see the handwriting on the wall. Stax was a great place to work, but they weren't very business savvy. You know what I'm saying? Like I said on another interview I did is, I on my first promotional job, first time they sent me on the road to visit radio and to work radio, they gave me a expense check for $800, which I never had to account for. I never had to turn in an expense report or anything. So I knew just from that incident, they weren't going to be in love. They weren't going to be in business.
You knew to start packing up your stuff right away.
I started interviewing for another position at Capitol, and I went to work for Capitol. That's when I really started. That's where I really started to sinking my teeth into the promotions part of it.
Okay, so let's talk about that in just a moment. So we got that question. Want to say hello to After Dark with Johnny Ray. After Dark with Johnny Ray is excited to be here. It says that you are such a legend. So you definitely are, because I'm excited. I'm geeking out right now that you're here. And yes, Shelly Shell, he did say you've been in the business for 55 years, you said, right?
I've been in over 50 years. I started in 71. So you can do the math. Yeah.
Okay. I won't be doing math because that's not my strong suit.
It's over 50 years. Yeah.
Over 50 years. Fantastic. Serena is here. And in case you didn't know, sir, we have an imaginary food truck that is real to us.
See that. I see all the bread. Oh, yeah.
Yes. So you can't tell us it's not real. And MC Curtis does the screeching sound for the food truck. So this is very real to us. So welcome to the fold. You
doing a wheelie on the food truck. Okay.
Yes, exactly. And Wabiri is here. And sir, she is an amazing songstress herself. So we're excited to have her here. She's just beautiful person inside and out and has a beautiful voice. And Ms. Mo is here from the D from Detroit, and she says that she vividly remembers buying her first 45. So I think a lot of us in here do remember the 45s. And History Needs You, in fact, used to stack up his 45s on his record player.
Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah. It's having a multiple where you had an arm come back and take the 45 and drop it down to the needle. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was a real experience.
It is. And there's a different sound that vinyl has or wax has compared to what we're hearing now.
Sounds. Oh, yeah, analog sounds are much, much richer than digital. In digital, since everybody's streaming and everything, all those sounds are compressed.
Right.
Digital music is compressed, so you don't get the same range that you get on wax. And wax is making a big comeback.
It is.
Yeah, wax is making a big comeback. Wax is selling real well. My daughter, matter of fact, has a big collection of wax, which she's been offered a huge amount of money for, but she won't sell it. They're collectors' items. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Rightfully so. There's just something about the crackle when when you start it and then you put the needle down. You're absolutely right. There's a richness that's there. So, and the nostalgia of it as well. So, absolutely. So we have another question for you, sir, before we continue on with what you were doing at Capitol Records. What are some of the pros and cons you've seen in the evolution of music, of the music industry since you've started?
Man, you don't want to get me started.
Yes, we do.
Streaming has robbed a lot of artists, even though they say it's much more open to music artists now, and it's much easier to get into the industry and all of that. That's all baloney. You have to realize with all of the ease of being able to release music, that means streaming services are getting something like 60 to 70,000 releases a day. Okay. So out of that conglomerate of all the music being released, it cuts down on the actual fact that you may be heard or you may be listened to, or you may have big sales. The only people that are really making big sales in streaming now are the brand artists and catalog. Matter of fact, right now is making more money than any release. If you notice, major labels are not releasing as many records as they used to do because there's no need to now because of streaming. Streaming is making labels billions because you can say it like this. Anyone in my age group that is going to listening to streaming, we're going to listen to old music that we grew up on. We're going to be listening to Luther Vandross or Teddy Pendergrass, some Earth, Wind, and Fire, something of that nature that was released during the period in which we were young. Now, and young kids don't listen to radio anymore. It's just a lost art. Matter of fact, most of young kids nowadays get their music from either streaming or YouTube or some other digital outlet rather than radio. Radio just can't really compete with the internet. It's just no competition.
So do you see, we're talking about when radio was king, that's the title of your book. Do you see a future for radio? And how do you see radio fitting into the future?
The only way I can see how radio could probably be more effective in the music industry. Now they're still making money, but they've changed the format into playing more familiar music now than new music. Okay. They don't want their listeners to change the dial. So they play familiar sounds that you're used to hearing and familiar artists that you're used to hearing. They don't break new artists anymore. Okay. Just that doesn't keep their listeners. It doesn't keep their listeners. And I say that to a lot of people I've interviewed with. I can't really blame them. You can't compete with the speed. And as a matter of fact, you will notice that when Beyonce has a release now, does she ever release it through radio?
Never.
Okay. That answers your question right then. She releases her stuff to streaming and video outlets and let radio discover it after. Okay. Same thing with every artist that has that type of pull or has that type of demand for an audience. They don't bother with radio. It's a second, so My book was very timely because it is definitely when radio was king. And I don't think they'll ever be king again.
And especially what I'm seeing in terms of the traditional industries, whether it's television or radio, they're risk adverse and adverse to change. And unless you embrace the change that's happening, you're not going to be around in the same way you were before, if at all. And so I see radio very slow to, because I, of course, not like you, but I came up through radio. Radio was before I did all of this. I was promotions staff for WBLK in Buffalo, New York. And so I came up through radio. And then when I got to Howard University, I was the program director for the HUR, for the student run, not HUR, the student run.
Was HUR part of Howard back then?
Yeah, it was, but we have two. WHUR, which is the commercial radio station, and then we had WHBC, which was the student run. Yeah. So I was with the student run one.
Yeah. I remember both of those. Yeah, that used to be one of my favorite markets was Washington, D.C. Yeah, because they had such strong radio stations, and they had about 4 major stations in that city, and I like that. Same thing with Atlanta. Had 3 or 4 major radio stations in it, black radio stations.
Absolutely, like urban format, huge in DC, and that makes sense. I just really, that made me fall in love with radio even more, just working in radio in Washington, DC. But everything has really shifted as you're talking about now. So,
I think one of the things, though, what you were saying about radio and what's going on now, it's just an era that we're in right now where everybody wants to be correct or politically correct, don't want to take any chances. Someone was talking about all the old time athletic stars that we used to have, how they would risk everything to support black things. How Jim Brown and Muhammad Ali and that era. And those type of men, we just seem to be vacant from the scene right now.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
So we have a comment from, I can't find it now, but Derek said that he is friends with your daughters and did not know that you were their father, and that it is such an honor for him.
My girls try to keep that they're my daughters on the down low, because a lot of people, once they find out they're my children, then everybody want to be their friends, or they want to be, so they like to build their own credibility without using me as a crutch, as they would put it. And I like that. I like that in them. Very few people know that I'm their dad.
Well, and they can hold their own, because they're absolutely amazing.
I raised them. They got strong backs. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Strong backs.
Yes. Absolutely. And Marisa Tigney is here. Hello, Marisa. And I saw you over here and Kamija Mila is over on the Facebook side on my account, and says hello to you, Curtis, as well. And Marisa says over here, TC talking about selling 45s. You already know he's got a deep history in music. Respect to you.
45s, they go way back.
way back. Absolutely. So Derek has a question for you, and asks, what are your thoughts on the introduction of computer-generated instruments to the business? Also, how do you feel about how many songs are enharmonic and use auto-tune?
I hate auto-tune. Auto-tune has made it possible for me and you to be singers. It's taken the pureness out of it, I think. It's just too much electronics involved with music now. That's one of the reasons why I used to like The Voice, when it was the TV show The Voice.
Yeah, The Voice.
Yeah, there's no people. They don't get a chance to see the individuals. They don't do anything but hear their vocal skills. And that's really kind of reminds me of what it was back in the day, because now to be an artist nowadays, you've got to have the complete package. You just can't be an ugly person with a great voice. If you're an ugly person with a great voice, it has to be a monster of a voice, because in figuring and picking artists nowadays, they pick the most attractive, the most physically fit, a lot of the stuff that has nothing to do with music. Okay. They go for the aesthetics of it because of social media. Social media has added that element to the industry.
So do you think that social media is a bad thing for the music industry?
It's a horrible thing.
Okay. Do tell why.
Social media benefits of, being able to be in contact with your friends and seeing each other's pictures and envying all of their vacations and things. That is one thing. But it has turned into a monster on how it has made young girls feel, because of all the photoshops and all of the imaging and things that they do on there, and how it has spread hate and political hate and things of that nature. It has made people so impersonal. The digital world. Matter of fact, it was something on the news the other night, and they're saying that America is suffering from loneliness like they've never seen before, and it is because of digital media. Anytime you walk up to somebody, this is what they're doing right here. Don't nobody even look up to look you in the eyes anymore. There's no personal contact. And that's what I hate about the music. And back when I was in the industry, it was a people on people process. Okay. When there was a new release, I had to take that music to individuals at radio stations. I had to introduce them to the artist. It was a personal contact between, and relationships were built, and music was developed upon the relationships that I established. Okay. Now it's all a click of a button. I don't even visit radio to send music out anymore. It's all MP3s or WAV files, so it's all done through computers. So the personal element, which I hate, has been taken out of the business. The only time, as a matter of fact, that you can do anything or see an artist now is on tour. And now I'm so glad that most artists have started this meet and greet. That artists meet with fans before and after the show. They were doing that shit in the country genre 20 years ago. Country artists, one of the reasons why country artists are so captured their fan base. So they had a personal connection with their fans. I lived in Nashville and worked country music. Country artists were doing meet and greets back before it. In the 50s, okay? And Black artists are just not getting hip to it. I see that Teddy.
Why? Why is that?
I don't know if just basically because they're not being handled by the proper management and proper people. Matter of fact, I still consult music companies and consult artists. And I meet artists not all the time, but I have run into several artists that I know had what it took to be a major artist, but was just not handled properly. Didn't do the right things, didn't have them do the right things, and made them. Matter of fact, a lot of the artists that I'd worked for during the 2000s and the earlier years, they want you to phone in their stardom. Okay. When I phone in their stardom, they want you to go out, break it on radio, break it on social media, and call them when the job is done. They have no participation in the whole process. You have to have participation in the process. You got to get out there and swim. You know what I'm saying? You got to get in the streets. Right. You got to meet people. I don't care what you can do online. Nothing beats person to person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's missing. That's really missing.
It is. I 100% agree. So, DS has another question for you, and I hope you don't mind that we're taking the audience questions. That's usually what I do. Okay, because I have my own line of questioning, but I love to get into
Gordon
audience
Lightfoot.
questions.
Yeah, the recent passing of Gordon Lightfoot.
Yes.
Anybody, any genius that passes in the industry, I take it hard because we're sure not reproducing them. You know, I mean, we'll never have another Michael Jackson. Never.
No.
Not in none of our lifetimes, I don't think. We maybe another 10 or 15 years from now, but I just don't see it happening because there were so many elements that were brand new at that particular time. There were a lot of people asking me about why was Thriller such a huge project. You know, it was that all of those elements came into existence around the same time. He had the perfect timing for the perfect release. He was right at the cusp of becoming the monster that he was, because up until that point, Michael had never produced or written any of his own material before.
Okay, so Thriller was the first time that happened.
Off the Wall.
Off the Wall. Okay.
The first time. Yeah.
Okay.
He wrote and produced some of the tracks on Off the Wall. That was he was elated about that because he'd always basically carried the family, the Jackson Five. Anything that he did, it was billed as the Jackson Five. And after they came to Epic, it was billed at the Jacksons because Jermaine remained at Motown.
Okay.
So it wasn't the Jackson Five anymore, just the Jacksons. A lot of people don't realize the difference there. Yeah.
And this is when you were at Epic because Thriller was on Epic Records, right?
That's when I was at Epic. Okay. When we signed them, it was the Jacksons, and they did several projects before Thriller. They did Destiny and Victory, and I think one other track. I know I worked with Michael on 5 or 6 projects, and those two were with his brother, and worked with him on his Victory tour that he did.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was that like working with him?
Well, I mean, it was, I guess at that time in my career, I thought I was the shit too. I mean, I got to be truthful about it. I mean, I was 20-something years old. I met Michael, and I felt like whatever Michael and them had done, we were going to improve upon it, which we did. But Michael was a very surprising artist, very not as arrogant and as cocky as you would think he would be, as being as good as he is. He was a very humble person. He was very aware of his surroundings, very business savvy, more business savvy than a lot of people will ever give him credit for. And without the pretentious stuff that he put on for the public, he was a regular guy. I mean, it took me some months to work up a friendship with him, which I explained in the book that I had to adjust my temperament, would be the best way to put it, to get, to start getting along with Michael. Because I'm a very, I guess, loud person, not loud, but I was aggressive and sort of ambitious. And Michael was a very soft-spoken, very laid-back person, and I would have to talk to him in this type of tone, okay? Instead of, raising my voice and going off like I usually do, I'd have to talk. I'd have to talk to Michael like this, okay? And I finally licked it and kicked it in the behind, and we became big buddies. I mean, he used to call me all the time. We talked about everything. I was with him with some of his girlfriends, which a lot of people don't realize that Michael had girlfriends. I was with him at some of his things like that. And I spent a lot of time with him at his mother's home, in the studio with him and Quincy. I got to meet Quincy when I worked with Michael. But all of that, like I said, all of that is in the book. I didn't talk about some of our private conversations, but I did divulge a few of them. I was concerned about him, especially during the 90s when all these suits were coming up about him being a child molester. I spoke to him about it. We talked about it. He told me it was all about the money, and which it ended up being, because the kids that sued him confessed later on that it was about the money. And then I tell anybody that suspects Michael of being a pedophile, I've never known anybody that could be under investigation by the FBI for 10 years. Michael was under investigation by the FBI for 10 years. Never found nothing. Never found nothing. They even took pictures of his privates. I mean, nobody should be invaded like that, and that's the price he had to pay. A lot of people are saying now that he was murdered,
Wow.
Because Michael owned almost all of Sony's publications, publishing, and he was trying to buy Marvel Studios.
Wow, now that I didn't know.
That's right. He was he tried to buy Marvel Studios before they were even doing movies. Even before Marvel thought about doing movies about superheroes. Michael saw that coming. And he wanted to buy Marvel Studios, and he had the money to do it.
So he was a futurist of sorts. He saw what was happening. Wow.
He saw the value of publishing back before anybody. He was buying up people's publishing back when he was a kid. He owned all the Beatles. He owned all of that stuff. Right. He owned almost every piece of music that Sony had in his catalog. Matter of fact, I don't know if you know about this deal, but Sony just gave his family $500 million for half his publishing. Not all of it. $500 million for 50% of his publishing.
I had heard about that. Wow.
That's a lot of money. And everybody was talking about Bruce getting 300 million, so-and-so getting 200 million. It's pennies when you get $500 million for half of it. But another thing I could tell you, Michael's image and his likeness and his music outsells now every artist in the world, even now. His stuff, matter of fact, where you talk about the images of all the dead people that like John Wayne and Marilyn Monroe and John Dean, Jimmy Dean, all that.
Yes.
He makes more money than all of them put together. True. You don't know that anybody else who's got a play on Broadway. Michael Jackson. He's got a show in Vegas that's that dance.
The Cirque du Soleil.
Cirque du Soleil. He's got that, and he got one overseas. So I mean, he's a money making machine. That's why a lot of people think that he was murdered.
Wow, interesting. It would be interesting to hear more about that theory.
Yeah, I'm just saying what I've heard. I really did think it was something shaky about it. With him ODing on that drug he used to use to sleep. But
yeah.
But with all the injuries and wounds, half of Michael's scalp was burned up. That was the wig he used to wear. Because of the Pepsi commercial.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. This is so interesting. I want to get to some other artists and some other things that you've done and work with, and get to some comments as well. One of my favorite artists is Sade. Not only because she's half Nigerian, and I'm Nigerian, but also her music is just timeless and classic. She's like one of the only artists I know people will wait for years for her albums and be okay with that.
Absolutely.
They just want her to come back. Nobody's angry. Go ahead.
She's in the studio now.
Yes, I heard that, and I'm so
she's in the studio now. Matter of fact, I spoke to her and Matthew before I finished the book, because there are some things in the book, I wanted to tell the story. Sade. That format of music happening in America then. You know, it was I was starting, and the death of disco. So there was no contemporary outlets for that type of music whatsoever. So Epic didn't know what to do with it. I figured out a marketing plan that worked. I went to London and met with her and convinced her of my plan. She did not agree with it, but I was arrogant and knew what the hell I was talking about. And I told her she didn't know what she was talking about, you know, and I proved her wrong. I think we kind of had a little bit that I couldn't do what I said I could do, you know, but we got to be very close. I did a big tour with her all across the country. Went to all the major cities, went to watch. We did a big party in Washington, D.C.
Oh.
Yeah, sure did. Did a big press party in D.C. with Sade. Mm-hmm.
You
know,
what was... Go ahead.
No, I just
Go
said,
ahead.
well, once she came over, once she came over and we spent a lot of time together, that album, which nobody thought would ever happen in America, ended up selling 20 million copies. You know, but she's a goddess in Europe.
And this is what I was about to say. You know, there's a lot. Yeah. The UK is brilliant when it comes to music. Yeah. Europe is brilliant when it comes to music. After Sade, did you all start to look more toward the UK?
No, we're doing that period. It was just a lot of UK artists. If you remember, there was The Clash.
Yeah.
There was Culture Club. Yeah, there was Adam Ant. There was a ton of acts coming from Europe during that period. And matter of fact, that was who was getting all the MTV play. Was all the European rock and roll bands.
Absolutely. Yeah. But amongst those, were there a lot? She was one of the few artists of color.
Oh, there was only one other one that I can think of. Doggone it. I can't think of this boy's name. We thought this kid was going to be big, too. He was on Columbia that had I can't think, it'll come to me. But it was another black artist that was in the UK that had a big record that was on Columbia Records. I thought there was going to be big things from him too, but he just did not have. The thing that made Sade is that she, and I told someone else this, I knew from the first time I met her, her creativity was all in her music. It is hard for an artist to represent material that they have not had a part of creating. Okay. And she helped create the music. All the music on there represented her. So you have a natural feel about that you're in your own skin. You know what I'm saying? You're not doing something that is different to you. So I mean, you present it better and it comes off better because it's you. And I always tell any act that's trying to develop material, make the record about you, something that you have experienced or you have lived, you know, and it just makes it more personal. It makes it more adaptable to your audience.
Wow, that makes perfect sense. So we're going to take some comments and then I want to turn to some more about the book and the industry because this is fascinating. First, let me say, if you're just joining us, welcome to the fold. You are watching MediaScope, all things media, tech, and pop culture. We're here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time on a whole bunch of different platforms. You maybe the one that you're watching on now, or maybe you're watching the replay. We're happy to have you here. Today, we have the distinct honor and pleasure of having TC Tompkins, media mogul, music mogul, radio mogul in our presence and our midst, and we're super excited to have him here. And we're actually going to take some comments and questions. Let's see. DS says that he's in love with Sade as well. Sade is an amazing talent, so soothing. And Derek says yes, she and Stevie Wonder we will wait for in terms of making an album. Right? Monique Walton is here and she loves Sade's music. Hello. And also Tyra Gardner, you were on Dr. Tyra's show. She is here. Yes. And she says hello to you. She says hello to you. Hello, and yes. Derek asked, were you talking about? But Terrence Trent D'Arby, was he?
Yeah, that's who I was talking about.
That's the dude right there.
I thought that kid was going to be big. Yeah, I really thought he was going to be big. Yeah, Terrence D'Arby. Yeah.
Loved his voice. Just
yeah, I loved him. It just went away. Just, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like whatever happened to. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. He was absolutely one of the acts that came back in that period and had a couple of hit records and just disappeared. I don't know what happened with him.
I don't know either. We need
I can tell you this: all my friends that are married, women friends that are married, husbands, whenever I get to talk about Sade, they get upset because all of their husbands are in love with Sade. I had a lady, matter of fact, I had an interview with a lady, husband didn't want to hear about nothing else in the interview. Asked him to talk about Sade. That's all he wanted. I could hear him in the background telling her, ask him about Sade. Ask him about Sade.
Wow. Well, she is such an icon. I can understand why. She's the only person that I probably will plunk down a whole bunch of money for and be okay with it. MC Curtis knows that because I'm cheap, but I will do it for Sade because she's absolutely amazing.
I can't imagine what the price of her tickets are going to be. My God, some of the prices that they asked us for these tickets now, and people are going to pay it. They don't care. They're going to pay it. I know if you can pay $2,000 to go see Taylor Swift, you can sure pay it to go see Sade.
So will Sade be actually on tour, or is she just actually in the studio?
If she's doing a project, she's going to definitely tour.
Wow. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, she's very particular. I mean, I love her, but she's so sheltered about her image. I kind of understand it, because there's some. I had to leave some things out of the book, but there are a couple of stories in the book about Sade that I had to disguise because I didn't want people to look at her. It's nothing negative, but she just didn't want anybody to know about it, So I told her, fine. I didn't want to do anything that would harm anything that she's doing.
Right. Right.
So I told her I wasn't going to leave it out, though. If some stuff happened, I said, I'm not leaving it out of the book. I don't care. I will take your name out of it. I will take your name out of it, but I'm not leaving it out.
Wow. So I guess we'll have to read it to figure it out.
Figure that out. And I've got some things in there about Teena Marie that a lot of people don't know.
Wow.
I worked with Teena on Lover Girl and was the name of the album, I think, Star Child? I think it was Star Child. Uh-huh.
Yes. Wow. This is fascinating. We do have some more questions, but Derek asked if you worked exclusively with George Michael as well.
No, I didn't work with George. George was on Columbia. Yeah.
Okay.
I had Epic, I had Philly International, that was Teddy Pendergrass and the OJs and all of those. I had Taboo, which was SOS Band. I had T-Neck, which was the Isley's I did In Between the Sheets for the IsleyBrothers. And I did Juicy Fruit with M. Toomey.
And he just passed away not too long ago.
Yeah, and I did Never Too Much with Luther Vandross.
Wow.
Yeah, I did all of Luther stuff until he left and went to J Records. Always Forever for Love, Never Too Much, Busybody, all of that stuff. A House Is Not a Home. Luther was an amazing artist, just an amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I tell everybody about what I really appreciated about Luther, other than him just being a monster talent, is just his willingness to do whatever was necessary. You know, I say in the book, I call Luther at 4 a.m, tell him to get his butt up. We got to be somewhere. He wouldn't mix a word. He'd get right up and get there. Only person I had problems with on that tour like that was Sade. Getting her up early was work. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Well, you know what? I would love for you to pick something out of, there were some stories and things you were telling us. Could you share a particular story, maybe about an artist or an event?
I got a story for you.
Let's do it.
That story. I got a story about Teddy Pendergrass.
Oh, okay.
Teddy Pendergrass loved to party. Okay. Teddy Pendergrass loved cocaine. Cocaine was the thing back then, though, but everybody was doing it. Cocaine back in the 80s. I tell anybody that asks me about cocaine in the 80s, you got to realize that they had a TV series that they dedicated to cocaine, which was Miami Vice. So whenever you have a series on TV talking about drug dealers and that stuff, Miami, matter of fact, was just, you could walk in the street in Miami and find cocaine on the street. It was so prevalent back then. But anyway, back to the story. I used to give Teddy a hard time all the time. I used to love fucking with him. I used to tell him if I could sing, women would be throwing bricks at your ass. That's exactly what I used to tell him all the time. I used to piss him off. I said, man, you ain't nothing. I said, if I was singing, they'd be throwing bricks at your ass. That's this shit. So he had his bodyguards grab me and pick me up, turned me upside down, and poured cocaine in my nose. I almost had a heart attack.
Wow.
That's in the book. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. It just.
I mean, it's like, what do you say to that? Wow.
Yeah, it shows you how wild it was. It's the absolute truth. They grabbed my arms, turned me upside down. He walked over, took a spoon, and put it in both my nostrils, and I thought I was gonna die. Everybody else thought it was funny. You know, I mean, you know what shit be happening, you be gasping and going on. All my boys, all my partners, they standing around, oh, they falling out. Oh, that's so funny, you know. And I can't say what I said, but I was very
I can imagine. Wow.
Bodyguards behind Teddy would have been messed up. Okay. He had two big bodyguards, so I couldn't do nothing with him, you know. But that was his way of having fun.
Wow.
Teddy was my boy, though. Other than that, Teddy was my boy. I loved hanging out with him. He used to tickle me, though, when I'd go backstage with Teddy. There'd be at least 50 to 60 women sitting backstage waiting on Teddy. I used to come in the room and say, 49 of y'all going to be disappointed.
Wow. That's hilarious.
I said, yeah, some of y'all gonna go home mad. Because I know Teddy's a monster, but he ain't that big of a monster.
Wow. Yeah. Well, besides Teddy Pendergrass, do you have a favorite artist that you worked with over your years in the industry?
Sade. Absolutely, positively. I love Sade. Love her today. She's still my number one. I can't wait for the album either. I'm like all the fans, you know. And I still play her stuff. I was playing her stuff today in the car. You know, she on all of my playlists. But she was my favorite artist to work with. I like Teena Marie. Teena was fun. Teena was very regular, you know, good people. Teddy was fun. Luther was always serious. He was joking, go on all the time, but Luther was about to work, you know. And see who else I worked with. I had a group that I really was very interested in making something happen with, but I didn't get a chance to. We had a female group called Crystal that was produced by one of the Silvers, I believe, one of the Silver boys.
Okay. Yeah.
And they were a hot act. They had one project with me before I left Epic. I didn't get a chance to break them. Worked with Miami Sound Machine, Gloria Estefan.
Wow.
Wow, yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah, and I mean, I had a great. Matter of fact, which I didn't even put in the book, which I had forgot, is Billy Ocean. Carol.
Oh.
Yeah, I worked with Billy. He came over for a tour. I worked with Billy for a while. Yeah, I love Billy. He was a great guy.
Wow. My father is funny. Whenever my father would come, because he lived in Nigeria, whenever he would come here, he would always ask every year, well, whatever happened to Billy Ocean? What about Billy Ocean?
Yeah.
I'm like, we don't know.
Great voice. He only had a couple of records that really hit for him, but he had a great voice. You know, he was just a great singer. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, all the artists are short, except for Teddy Pendergrass. I think Teddy Pendergrass is about the tallest act I worked with. You know, rest of them are kind of short. I guess
that's interesting.
So was Luther short too?
Huh?
Was Luther short too? Because he looked kind of tall to me. You know,
Luther was probably average height. Luther was average height. But you got to realize I'm 6'7". So everybody's short.
Oh wow! Oh,
wow!
It's no wonder.
At 6'7", everybody's short.
No wonder.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow! Wow! Well, are there any artists now, currently, that you would love to work with?
Oh, I love Doja Cat. I love her, Scissor. No, there ain't no real male artist that's really knocking me out. But I love all three of those. I would love to work with any of those young. I worked with Alicia Keys on her first project, but I've worked with Snoop. I worked with Gucci Man. I worked with Flo Rida, a whole bunch of hip hop and dance acts.
Wow, interesting. So how was it for you actually working with R&B, working with some other types of music, and then working with hip hop artists? What was that like? Do you see any difference?
Well, the only difference in hip hop artists is their language. Some bunch of MFs and niggers and all that kind of stuff. I had problems with some because of matter of fact, I had a problem with Flo Rida. Matter of fact, his people were threatening me. Okay.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. But I like I say in the book, I work with tons of major drug dealers. Okay. So threatening me don't really raise the needle. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
I give them my home address. Matter of fact, and when I was at Epic, I worked. Well, you got to realize that the Italians were running the music industry in the 80s.
Okay. Wow.
Before the 80s, it was the Jews. But back in the 80s, it was the Italians that ran the music industry. So I dealt with all sorts. My boss was Italian, Frank DeLeo. Took it.
Wow. Over at Epic?
Yeah. The guy that ended up managing Michael Jackson was Frank DeLeo. If you ever seen Goodfellas, the movie Goodfellas.
Yeah.
The little short, fat guy that plays the brother, that's Frank DeLeo.
Yeah. Oh.
And that movie is really true to life for him, too.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have lived a life. You have really lived a life. This is interesting. So absolutely. So we want to be respectful of your time. But before we let you go, make sure if you have any other questions or any other comments for Mr. TC Tompkins that you put them in now before we go, because we actually are going to, he has been so gracious, and we are going to give away his book, When Radio Was King. It is a read, and if you hear all these stories, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to let them know if they think that was something. It's a story in there about when I got picked up by the DEA for my association with sorts of people, people on the edge. They tried to set me up. It's a story in there about that. a story in there about how I saved Teddy Riley's career when I met with MCA. I don't know if I saved his career, but I know I saved that Guy project that he did. I did the Guy project. I did Rex and Effects. I did New Jack Swing. Today, all of that stuff was I did when I worked for Teddy. But like I say in the book, I signed Teddy when he was 15 years old. He had a group called Kids at Work. That was the name of the group, called Kids at Work. And there's a picture of me, matter of fact, with him in the book at that signing, where we signed him to his own label. I think the label was The Sound of New York, was the label that Gene Griffin and him had.
Wow.
You know? Yeah.
Super interesting.
I can't forget my lifelong friend Clarence Avant, godfather of music. It was one of my mentors. Taught me a lot. I didn't listen to him half the time because I'm hard-headed and stubborn. But Clarence and I did a lot of work together. Matter of fact, Clarence introduced me to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, which did SOS Band, and Alexander O'Neill. They did Alexander, which I worked with. And I worked with Rod Temperton, which is the writer that did Off the Wall. He wrote a lot of songs on Off the Wall. He also was the keyboardist for a group called Heatwave. I know a lot of people won't know.
Yeah.
You know Heatwave. I worked with
I do, yeah.
Heatwave was going to be a big group, but the lead singer got paralyzed in a car accident.
Yeah, I remember that.
Johnny Wilder. They were from Dayton, Ohio. There was a lot of great bands used to come out of that area, man, back in the 70s.
Yeah. Ohio had a really big thing going on. Yeah.
Dance Band, Ohio Players, came up out. Roger Troutman.
Yep. Wow.
So I worked in the Midwest for a long time. I lived in Chicago, which is in the book. And matter of fact, as hard as it is to believe, I think I enjoyed Chicago most of all because back then I worked for all the labels. I didn't just work for Epic. I worked for Columbia, Epic, and all of them. So I worked with Herbie Hancock, Bill Withers, Minnie Riperton, Johnny Taylor, Tyrone Davis, George Duke, Marlena Shaw, Patti LaBelle, Gladys Knight and the Pips, Marilyn Davis, Billy McCoo, the guys from the Fifth Dimension. So I had a great time in that market, working with all those multitude of acts. And it's all stories in the book here about all the stuff I used to deal with them, which I loved. And it's also stories about the racism that I dealt with in the 70s and the 80s and stuff like that. But, you know, if you're Black in America, you're going to deal with that.
Absolutely. So before we get to our giveaway, what is next for you? Because it doesn't seem like you're anywhere near done, even though you have all these great stories. What is next for TC Tompkins?
I'm looking at a few artists right now. I'm in negotiations now with a couple of artists to do consulting and management. One artist I'm real geeked about. I hope she can get this contract cleared up. I got a business partner here in the city. Then we worked with a lot of Houston artists. And I've had real good success with a lot of acts out of this town. This is a very surprising city as far as music is concerned, and which a surprise to me, you know, because I moved here after I was consulting so many companies down here. I was flying back and forth down here all the time. So I said, I moved down here, which I had kind of gotten sick of Memphis. Memphis had sort of changed. It wasn't the same city it used to be when Stax was open there. And Houston is a much more diverse market. Very surprising is being in the state of Texas, like I asked you about Florida. Being in the state of Texas, that it is diverse as it is, and as many music people are there are in Houston.
Wow.
But
Well, we can't.
but I'm still working with music, and people want to contact me as TC Tompkins LLC. I definitely do work with material and new artists.
Absolutely. MC Curtis, can you take down like this so that we can put up the link if anybody wants to contact Mr. Tompkins? So tell us again. It's
TC Tompkins LLC, and let me give you because I got a brand new number.
Okay.
I got a brand new phone number. Okay, here it is right here. Oh yeah.
You're okay with putting your phone number out there on the
absolutely. Yeah. 281-845-2012.
Can you repeat that again?
281-845-2012. Okay. And it would be forwarded to me.
So yes, absolutely. So put that, if you could please put that on a banner so that we could put that up if anybody wants to contact. And also, your book is available through you and Amazon,
everywhere.
Correct?
I would prefer
everywhere.
I would prefer you going to my website, whenradiowasking.net, because Amazon. When you buy it at Amazon, Amazon keep all the money. I get a few dollars royalties.
Okay.
When you buy it directly from me, I keep about 40% of the profit on it. But it's everywhere. It's on Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Apple, ebook. Only thing I don't have yet is an audio book, and I'm working on that now.
Okay, and D. Carpio was asking if you were going to do Audible. So there you go, D. He is working on the audiobook as we speak. So let's do this. We are going to give away one of his books. Make sure you support. Make sure you go to whenradiowasking.net and buy it that way. And he has graciously gifted us a book, and we're going to give it away. So this is what you do to get the book. You are going to type #radio in the comments. So I'll give everybody a little bit of time. Go ahead and put #radio in the comments, and I'll give a little bit of time, and it will aggregate everybody who puts that in. So go ahead, do it. And I know there's a little bit of a delay. Again,
you got to pick the winner.
Oh yeah, we're gonna watch. It's gonna happen now, live in real time.
Okay.
We have a little tool. So put hashtag and then radio. So Derek, why is there a 28? You don't follow directions. I said put #radio. So you will get an F in my class. Because it may not pick it up if you have any. So all we need is hashtag and then radio. Okay, so I think I'm going to give a little bit more time. I think we have everybody who is going to put it in. So we're going to start collecting the comments. Hold on. Let me share my screen. It's been a minute since I've done this. Present. Share screen. And we're going to do this giveaway tool. And I am sharing. All right. Can you see it?
Not yet. I see that icon.
Okay. Hold on. Let me add it to the stream.
Okay.
You see it now?
Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. So I'm going to start collecting the comments. I think we got everybody. There's more than that. All right. I think it will congregate everybody. Let's go. Here we go.
Oh, yeah. I see it popping up. Mm-hmm.
Monique Walton on YouTube. You are the winner of this book. Yay,
Right,
Monique. Yay! Congratulations.
Give me your address, Monique, and I'm going to personally autograph it to Monique.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
See, look at that. And you got a personally autographed copy? What? Look what happens when you watch MediaScope, people. So Monique, you can contact either you could give it directly to him, or you can either contact me and I will forward the information. Make sure so that he can get you your book. Fantastic. So congratulations. Yay. All right. Mr. Tompkins, is there anything you want to leave us with before we let you go?
I just want to say thank you for having me. You know, I appreciate your time and your energy that you did for putting this together for me. I am open to anybody that would like to, get the book or ask me questions about the book. And if you get questions after we're through, just forward them to me. I'd be more than happy to answer them. I thank both you guys for your time, and I am here working to be better every day.
Wow. Well, you presented your best today, and we are so happy and honored that you came on to be there with us. Can we both be on the screen, MC, please?
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's good. Okay.
Thank you, MC. We talked before we got on. Me and him really had a nice conversation.
Yeah. Good
stuff. Oh, good. Good. He didn't alienate you. Like, good. Thank you. Thank you for acting right today, MC. Because usually he doesn't act right, but today he did. You've made me proud, MC. Thank you. And with that, MC, do you have any final words?
No, this is a great show, and I definitely want more. So, quick question, Mr. Tompkins: Are your daughters still interested in your stories, or do they just like Dad's got?
You know what? They lived it. They reminded me,
right?
Was when I was writing the book. I said, Dad, don't leave this out. Dad, don't leave this out. And I, to be truthful with you, I had to cut the book back. It was 500 and some pages.
Wow.
It was just too long, because I left out a lot of artists that I worked with,
right.
A lot of incidents. And people tell me I need to write another book, but I don't. Trust me, it took me a year to write this. So I'm not looking forward to writing another one. I'll be more than happy to talk to anyone about it and the contents of it. But it has been a pleasure. It was a cleansing process for me.
Sure, absolutely.
Because I just had forgotten a lot of the stuff. And then I'll be truthful with you, I had a lot of vindictiveness in me for some of the things and some of the that had done stuff to me, because you'll read in the book that when I left Epic, they had all kind of lies out on me, but I had become a crackhead, all kind of stuff. But hatred, and it's a hard thing for me to face up, because I don't dislike or hate anyone, but me being the #1 label in the world and having Michael Jackson made me a lot of enemies.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So wow. you can't be good at something without pissing somebody else off.
Absolutely.
That's true. That is true.
I don't know why we like that, but that's just our nature.
Yeah, comes with the territory for sure.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, we thank you for coming. And I would love to have you back. You are such a joy to have on.
Once you get a chance to digest more of the book, because I know some stuff in there you're going to want to ask me about. So come back.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. As I get through it, we'll do this again. Thank you so much, Mr. Tompkins. You are amazing. And to everybody else, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for spreading love and giving him love. And make sure you support the book, When Radio Was King. Go to whenradiowasking.net. He also has given you contact information. If you have any questions and you want to contact him or interested in working with him, please contact him. And with that, we are going to end the show. We love you for watching. We bid you adieu. You guys, myself, and all of this, and Mr. Tompkins, we are going to exit stage left. Until next week, cheers.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, close the doors, walk across the corridor. We got something to